welcome back to Movie Review Mom. Thank you for spending a few minutes while I talk about movies. You probably love movies as much as I do, which is why you're watching this channel. Yay, my people! So I'm excited to tell you about this movie because I just finished watching it literally minutes ago. And so I want to tell you about it so that it's on your radar. The film is called The Sky is Everywhere. This very magical Gen Z drama is now available on Apple TV Plus. And I'm impressed with how many good movies Apple TV Plus has been pumping out lately. And this is another one. It's rated PG-13 and is an hour and 43 minutes. I'll give you an overview in a nutshell, and I'll point out things I liked and didn't like, as well as offer tips for parents, themes worth talking about, movie lines, and even recommendations for some other films that I think that you might also really like. Okay, so in a nutshell, based on the popular book by Jandy Nelson, this coming-of-age teen romance features a funny and whimsical perspective on death, grief, and life. Tucked among the magical redwood trees of Northern California, near where I grew up, and surrounded by her grandmother's gargantuan roses, 17-year-old Lenny Walker, a radiant musical prodigy, struggles with overwhelming grief following the sudden loss of her older sister, Bailey. When Joe Fontaine, the charismatic new guy at school in the band, enters Lenny's life, she's drawn to him. But Lenny's complicated relationship with her sister's devastated boyfriend, Toby, starts to affect Lenny and Joe's budding love. Through her vivid imagination and honest, conflicted heart, Lenny navigates first love and first loss to create a song of her own. The sky is everywhere. It begins at your feet. Get your tissues ready. And if you're a teenager, you might even experience some ugly crying. So here's a list of things that I really liked about this movie. First of all, director Josephine Decker really seems to understand her target audience. She captures the vitality of youth with her colorful imagery and language as she tells a very heartbreaking story, but filled with joy. The young cast is really special. Grace Kaufman plays the protagonist and does an excellent job and shows an impressive amount of emotional range in the film. We're sure to see a lot of her. At least I'm hoping we're going to see a lot more of her in the future in films because I think she's really special. I also always adore seeing Cherry Jones and Jason Segel. Their light, quirky personalities helped to balance out all of the emotional drama and teen angst in the movie. The fun score and musical accents are fantastic. Music is such a powerful healing instrument, and we get to hear some lovely pieces. I wish I had spent more time as a teenager developing musical talents. I took some classes. I learned how to play the piano and the guitar, but I was terrible at both. And yet I sang in choirs and performing groups and stuff like that. But even still, I wished I had spent more time because it is so powerful. And I miss that part of having enough free time to practice musical instruments. I love that in a movie about death and grief, we're surrounded by gorgeous gardens, the sounds of chirping birds in the background, flowers, beautiful colors, and all kinds of nature. Nature is used as a symbol of healing in very creative ways in the movie and could easily be called one of the characters of the cast even. I got a kick out of one of the scenes in particular when Lenny is looking for a sign and all kinds of entertaining events and occurrences are happening all around her without her seeing any of it. Just the audience sees it with kind of a wink to the audience, like, when you're looking for signs, don't forget to really look around everywhere. I thought that was a great message. I love the blend of literature, music, fantasy, and inspirational messages and images throughout the entire film. And there are truly some tender moments that will touch your heart. There are also some very wise words that are spoken that we can learn from. It's fun and even enlightening at times to visit the headspace of a teenager. It was perfect to illustrate the feeling of falling in love with several images of floating, because that's exactly what it feels like. I loved just the lightheartedness amidst the heavy themes of death and dying and that kind of thing. Now, there were only a few things that I didn't like or thought could have been handled better. First, there are some flashbacks in some scenes that might confuse viewers with the timeline. The target audience is definitely Gen Z. So some adults might just roll their eyes at all of the teenage angst and drama. Some viewers might even get bored waiting for something to happen. But you have to remember that this is a journey through death and life. And it's a very internal look at what's happening with the emotional growth of various characters. Now, let me give you some tips for parents. There is obviously talk of death. There are some awkward conversations and texting about certain male anatomical body parts. There is talk of intimate relations as well. Kissing, there's a love triangle, and there's some mild profanity. The themes that are illustrated very well in this movie are grief, celebration of life and not wasting life, fear, cynicism, death and loss, romance and love, music, friendship, connection, forgiveness, and joy. So I always write down the funny lines and interesting lines when I hear them so I can share them with you and you can get a taste for the style of the movie and just kind of how it feels to watch the movie and learn from it. And I have all of them on my written review at moviereviewmom.com. So you can go over there and check all of those out. But I'll just share a few of them with you right now. So this one line just made me laugh because it just seemed like such a teenage line. There's this girl and she's standing in front of this boy that she's got a crush on. And it's the first time she's seen him without shoes. And she goes, your toes are so awesome. And I was like, yes, young love. And then there is a long list of really interesting, insightful lines. And here's one of them. Lenny, who is this young teenage girl whose sister just suddenly passed away, is constantly reading the book Wuthering Heights. And if you've never read that book, you should read the book. But she becomes obsessed with it and really spends her life in the book rather than out of the book living her own life. And so finally, her sister says, maybe one day you'll put down Wuthering Heights and live your own life. And that's one of the big messages of the movie is, yes, grief will last a lifetime. You'll spend your whole life wishing for that person that you lost to come back and be a part of your life, but you can't put down your life and stop living. You have to move on. And then there's this very sweet, supportive relationship between Big Walker, played by Jason Segel, and he is Lenny's uncle, and he's there to offer support. And she asks him, Lenny says, what if I did something truly terrible? You know, and you could see in his mind, he's thinking, what terrible thing could she have done? And he thinks and he says, don't do it again. And I thought that was really good advice. And then another time he's giving her advice because she did it. So another thing that was really stupid. And she feels like she just blew it with this guy she's got a crush on. And he says, you took a big risk. And that's what love is. And so there are so many lessons about life, death, grieving, all of that, but just so many great little nuggets that you could really spend some time talking about with your friends that you watch this movie with. I also really love the imagery in this book. And I imagine that the book is fantastic. And I think the movie did a really good job capturing the essence of words, language, ideas, concepts in a beautiful way. For example, Lenny is really struggling and she says, my mind is not a safe place. I can't shove the dark out of the way. And she's looking for lightness in her life and visual, actual light itself. And she does get to experience some of those things, the darkness and the light. And then at one point she's tasting something and she says, it tastes good. It tastes really good. It's too soon for it to not taste like ashes. And there's this struggle of feeling guilt for wanting to move on with your life when someone dies. And how much time it takes to grieve. And everybody takes a different amount of time to grieve. So there's this playing between grief and guilt and fear of how to move forward. And so one of the characters, Joe Fontaine, played by Jacques Coleman, he says, I don't want to miss out on my life either, just because I'm afraid. Okay, and there are many more great lines like that. I just thought the movie was really well done, and my overall movie review, Mom, grade is an A minus. But before we go, let me give you 2 recommendations for a couple of other movies that I instantly thought of as I was watching that. The first one is called The Book of Love, and it's not the most recent one that appeared on Netflix. This is an older one, 2017, I believe. And it's about love and loss and grieving and some teenage angst and that kind of stuff. So check that one out. And then, of course, I thought of The Fault in Our Stars. Again, life, love, death, grieving, and it's a classic and a fan favorite of teenagers and Gen Z for sure. All right, that's it. I hope that if you watch this movie, you do get a kick out of it and that it causes you to really think, reflect on your own life, and choose life. Thank you so much for choosing to watch this YouTube channel. I really appreciate your support. Be sure and hit subscribe if you haven't already, and even like the video and click on that little bell notification, and it'll let you know every time I upload a new movie review. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.